Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, and we have something very serious that we need to discuss today, and that is how much the popularity of historical romances has declined. And I have specifically really noticed it within the last couple of years. We are seeing that in very concrete ways in the traditional publishing industry. Romance publishers such as Avon just aren't buying as many historical romances from authors anymore, and so we're seeing that a lot of historical romance authors are pivoting to other genres, such as romantasy, romantic fantasy, and other subgenres of romance, and it just makes me sad. And I do think that a part of this absolutely has to do with book talk and the types of books that are going viral there, because absolutely book talk has a huge say in the book publishing industry nowadays. And that is not just romance, that's every genre, truly. And so because historical romances aren't going viral on book talk, they're just not popular right now. I also think the show Bridgerton on Netflix has something to do with this decline in popularity, because in 2020, when season 1 came out, there was a big resurgence in the historical romance genre. I remember at the time, like in 2020 and 2021, anytime I made a video about historical romances, those were my most viewed videos by like hundreds of views. And it was just so amazing to see at the time, because historical romance has always been the subgenre of the romance genre that has been the least popular, at least online, I would say. And it was just amazing to see like all of these people discovering the genre and what's amazing about it. And then season 2 came out of Bridgerton, and I think that that was a very good season, and I think that that also kind of helped with a little bit of a resurgence of love for historical romance. But I just got the feeling and vibe that when season 3 came out, and a lot of people panned that season, including me, I kind of hate that season. Like, it really was not great. And so I'm just left wondering, because that season wasn't great, is that why we didn't get another resurgence of love for the genre? That's the vibe that I get, at least. I may be wrong. Some of you might have a different perspective on that, but I just feel like there has to be a connection between like the waning quality of Bridgerton and like book talk and all of those things. So today I just wanted to show some love for this genre. I adore historical romances. I discovered them in 2018 and I have not looked back since. So today I have some books and authors that I want to talk about in like a few different categories. Basically, I want to talk about really great places to start if you want to dip your toe into historical romances. I also want to talk about just like some of my all-time favorite historical romances and authors ever. And then because it is the fall season, I do want to talk about historical romances that are specifically perfect to read during the fall and autumn season. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into this. So if you are someone that is brand new to the genre and you have no idea where to start, I have made a video all about this and I will link it up in the cards above. But if you just want some quick recommendations, here they are. The first one I would recommend is The Season by Sarah MacLean. This is a YA historical romance with a murder mystery element to it. And this book really stands out to me because of how well it introduces the London society of the Regency era. And if you don't know, the Regency era takes place from about 1810 to 1820. And Sarah MacLean even included a guide at the end of this book that like perfectly lays out what the peerage was, the different ranks, different titles such as dukes and earls and viscounts and things like that. So if that is something that confuses you going into historical romance, this is definitely the book to go with. And I also just loved how concisely Sarah MacLean explained all of that also like as a part of the book itself, as a part of the story, and it doesn't take you out of the story, it just adds to your reading experience. So even though this is technically a YA novel, I just think this is a really great place to start to get into the genre in general. Then I basically would have like two paths for you to start with. If you are someone that enjoys rom-coms and you want to laugh while reading, then I can't recommend Tessa Dare highly enough as your next place or your next author to go with. Her books are just the epitome of historical rom-coms. They make me literally laugh out loud, and that is very difficult to do in my opinion, and something that I feel like is just underappreciated in the romance genre. But yeah, her books are hilarious, but the romances are also really great. The Duchess Deal, which I have here, is book 1 in her Girl Meets Duke series. There are 3 books out in this series, and I think this is the perfect series to go with if you want to dip your toe into more like the rom-com side of things. If you like a little bit more drama and angst, I would then recommend that you go with my girl Lisa Kleypas. So here I have book 1 of the Wallflower series, and then Again the Magic is technically the prequel to this series, but Again the Magic really feels like its own book and story. This is still my absolute favorite Lisa Kleypas book to this day. This book actually has 2 romances in one book, and I think that Lisa Kleypas just did a phenomenal job of balancing those 2 romances. This has a revenge plot. I will take a revenge plot any day of the week. I'm absolutely obsessed. This is one of the angstiest historical romances that I've ever read, and is just so beautiful and heart-wrenching and made me cry. And then you would go into her Wallflowers series, which is like her classic series, probably the series that she is most well known for. And these books follow these 4 best friends, and each book in the series follows the romance of each of the friends. And like each book is just so amazing, and you just can't go wrong. So yeah, if you want to go with more rom-coms, go with Tessa Dare. If you want more drama and angst, go with Lisa Kleypas. I am oversimplifying things for sure, because there's definitely comedic elements in these books, and there's definitely dramatic and angsty things going on in these books, but you get the idea. Then I have 3 other authors that I just had to bring up. First of all is Joanna Shupe. I have The Lady Gets Lucky here. This is my favorite cover of hers. This is my favorite book of hers. This is a friends to lovers romance that involves lessons in seduction, and it's absolutely everything. This is a part of her Fifth Avenue Rebels series, and her books take place in the Gilded Age in New York City, so that's the 1890s. And that's one of the reasons why I love her books so much, is that she writes about an era that not many other authors write about. Most historical romances you find are going to take place during the Regency era. Like I said before, that's about like 1810 to 1820-ish. So I just love that her books take place in the United States and take place in this opulent and really luxurious era. And I have read this book twice, and it just hits every time, and it's absolutely one of my top favorite historical romances ever. If you want to know my absolute top favorite historical, that is definitely The Duchess Deal, but The Lady Gets Lucky is a very close second. And I would say that Again the Magic is a very close third for sure. And then another author I would recommend, speaking of books that take place in the United States, is Beverly Jenkins. The Queen Bev herself. So she writes mainly historical romances that take place in the US following the Civil War, so around like the 1870s-ish. And I would personally recommend starting with her Destiny trilogy. This is book 1, Destiny's Embrace. Look at this beautiful cover. This is a trilogy that follows 3 brothers finding their happily ever afters, finding the loves of their life, and each book in this trilogy has a very distinctive vibe to it. My personal favorite in this trilogy is Destiny's Surrender, which is book 2. That book follows our heroine, who is a sex worker, and the hero is a client of hers, and it's just amazing. I gave all 3 of these books 5 stars. They're so good. Of course, I would recommend Indigo. That's like the classic Beverly Jenkins book, but I really enjoyed starting with this trilogy before jumping jumping into that book. And then one last author that I wanted to bring up in terms of like my top tier, top favorite historical romance authors is Lorraine Heath. And I think her Sins for All Seasons series is a really, really great place to start. I think that Lorraine Heath can be a little overwhelming because she is such a prolific author. My God, she has written historical romances since like 1990 and comes out with like a book a year, so you can do the math on that. She has several series, and so it's easy to get overwhelmed with like what book to go with, but I think this is a fantastic one to go with. I think Lorraine Heath's romances are a really great option, especially if you love dark romance. Lorraine Heath is going to give you those darker themes for sure. And this series centers on this group of siblings, the True Loves, but they are essentially all siblings because their mother took them in when they were all babies. There was this concept known as baby farming back in this era. This takes place in the 1870s, so I assume in the 1800s and even earlier, where people of nobility would give their illegitimate children to these widows who were known for baby farming, and they would take these babies and get rid of them. That's all that I will say. But their mother ends up taking them in instead of getting rid of them. And so that's one of the things I adore about this series, is that found family element. And just, man, Lorraine Heath is like a queen of writing yearning and desire. And her books just feel so sweepingly romantic. And I feel like that has become more and more rare nowadays. I feel like a lot of romance books that are popular, they do a lot of telling and not showing, and they just don't feel super romantic, you know what I mean? But Lorraine Heath like always serves that. And then really quick, another author that I would highly recommend is Scarlett Scott. She is an indie historical romance author. The first book that I would recommend is Lady Ruthless. Scarlett Scott is the queen of writing hate to love historical romances. And I mean true hate to love. The hero and the heroine hate each other's guts. It's everything. And this premise was so fun. So at the beginning of the book, the heroine writes these articles about the man who ends up being the hero of this story, and just, you know, ruins his name basically by writing these newspaper articles about him. And he finds out that she's the one writing them. And so in retaliation, he blackmails her into marrying him. There's lots of reasons that go into that decision, but yeah, this ends up being a marriage of convenience, and they hate each other, and it is just everything. The way that these characters go from hate to friends to lovers, just chef's kiss, truly. And I also want to quickly recommend, because we are getting closer to the holiday season, is The Duke Who Despised Christmas by Scarlett Scott. This is a Christmas romance novella. Again, hate to love. This one has class difference, which is a really fun trope in historical romances. We have the hero who is a duke, so he is a member of nobility, and then the heroine is his housekeeper. And things do not start off great between the two of them. The hero is grumpy, he's brooding, he's gone through a lot in his life. And yeah, the way that these two fall for each other is just everything. And I loved this one even more because even though there was the class difference, once the hero fell for her, he was like all in, and he was like, I don't give a shit that you're my housekeeper. I want to marry you and love you for the rest of my life. Okay, thanks, bye. Just a wonderful Christmas historical romance, and it was under 200 pages, so you'll fly through it. Last but certainly not least, I wanted to recommend some historical romances that are perfect for spooky season, perfect for autumn. The first one I would recommend, I believe it's called Secrets of a Moonlit Night by Elisa Braden. I love Elisa Braden. I need to read more of her books. She is also an indie historical romance author. So this one's a governess romance. A governess is similar to a nanny, where the heroine is the governess for the hero's children, and there is this really spooky abbey that the hero lives in, and there is a ghost who may or may not be like a matchmaking ghost, and is scheming for the two of them to get together. And this was just everything. It was less than 100 pages and just an absolute delight. And another novella that's perfect for this season is The Phantom of Drury Lane by Kate Bateman. I love Kate Bateman, love, love, love her books. I think she would be another great author to go with if you're just kind of like dipping your toe into the genre, or even if you're a seasoned historical romance reader, she's just amazing. But this one is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. We have our heroine who is trying to solve the mystery of who this mysterious man is who sits in a certain box at the Drury Lane Theater. Meanwhile, we find out pretty much right at the beginning of the novella that this phantom character persona ends up being this man who is like frenemies with the heroine. I think they grew up together, so it's like childhood frenemies to lovers, and just, again, a delight. A series that I would highly recommend for this season is the Dark Gothic series by Eve Silver. I haven't heard anyone talk about this author or this series, but I have read a couple of books in this series, and they are so, so good. They are the epitome of Gothic historical romances. The vibe is just immaculate, and each book has its own unique premise. They're not really like interconnected at all, so you could definitely read these books in whatever order that you want. I did start with book one, which is Dark Desires, which is an interesting play on the Jack the Ripper mystery, and our heroine falls for this doctor that she's working for, but it also seems like this doctor is doing some shady things. It is a Gothic romance after all, so of course the hero has to look a bit shady. Ooh, another book that I would recommend that it's actually kind of like half contemporary, half historical, and I unfortunately don't own a physical copy of it. This is called Ghost Walk by Cassandra Gannon. This was a really fun, very unique romance too, that involves our heroine who is a crime scene investigator, and then our hero is a pirate from the 1700s, specifically from the Revolutionary War era. And so the two of them meet when our heroine sees the hero as a ghost in present day, and there ends up being a lot of time travel back to his time and then, you know, back to the present, and there's just a lot of different things going on in this book, but it was just so fun. You really feel this connection between these two people from vastly different eras. This also has a fun comedic element to it. I loved Jamie, our hero. He is everything, and like I said, just has a really unique and fun vibe to it, so definitely would recommend checking out. And then lastly, to round out this video, I have some more autumn historical romances that I own physical copies of. The first book that I want to bring up is the Belladonna series by Adeline Grace. This is a YA that leans towards new adult series. It is a trilogy, and then there is a novella that recently came out that is a Christmas themed novella that I cannot wait to read during the holiday season. But this is a Gothic historical romance series that has paranormal and fantastical vibes to it. Definitely is also very creepy, has like slight horror elements to it as well. This series definitely has like a little bit of everything. There's like murder mysteries too, ghosts, things like that. And this first book is a retelling of the fairy tale, The Death and the Maiden. And then the second book bridges the gap between this romance and the romance that happens in book 3. And by the way, book 3, Wisteria, is my personal favorite of the series. I freaking love that book so much. But yeah, this series is so good. The writing is stunning and just like perfectly fits the vibe and the setting. I definitely found myself savoring this series. I didn't want to read it too quickly because it was just so beautifully written. Next, I want to bring up The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller. I feel like this is a book that not that many people talk about, and it's a shame because it's so freaking good. This is another Gothic historical romance. This one takes place in 1875 in New York, so this is leaning towards the Gilded Age in New York. So our heroine Alva moves into this house after her husband passes away, but this house is really, really haunted. And we have our hero of the story, Samuel, who is a professor, and he believes in ghosts. He investigates ghosts. So he helps Alva with dealing with this haunting, and they fall in love along the way. My camera battery just died, but we are back. But yeah, Samuel, the hero in this, is just like the sweetest cinnamon roll hero ever. And the way that he falls for Alva and makes Alva fall for him is just so beautiful and sweet. But this is also kind of an unhinged ghost story and a fun gothic time, so highly recommend. The last one I would recommend that is absolutely perfect for the autumn season is After Midnight by Teresa Medeiros. Let's talk about this book, and I am going to show y'all the step back because it's absolutely stunning. This is may or may not be a paranormal historical romance that may or may not involve vampires. This one kind of gives vibes of The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn, book 2 in the Bridgerton series, because it involves our main character Caroline, but her younger sister Vivian is actually courting Adrian, who ends up being the hero of this story. So there's that kind of love triangle angst going on, but there's rumors that Adrian, who is a very wealthy Viscount, may or may not be a vampire, and so Caroline is terrified of her sister courting this man and potentially marrying him, but she also cannot deny this chemistry and tension that she has with Adrian. And oh my god, this is just a top-tier historical romance in general, and the setting is just so vivid, the writing is so beautiful, the way that these two characters fall for each other, there's just like so much angst. It's so good. I've read this book twice and absolutely loved it both times. All right guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to just yap about historical romances as well. If you want to give recommendations either to myself or to other people that are watching, that would be amazing. I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. And with all of that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!